12:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't really like this song as an intro, but now that I'm hearing it, I like it. I feel like the green eggs and ham guy. It's like, oh, now that I tried it, it's actually pretty good. Chris Hand in for Chad Benson today, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're doing the musical chairs. I don't even want to really explain all the behind the scenes because it was just like we were herding cats trying to figure out what we were going to do today because Matt Murphy is still nursing the Chinese shoulder that he had installed. So Chad is going to be in at 2 o'clock. An abbreviated Chris Hand show today. And I've never done a show this short, and it's really weird. It's really weird. We got Scott Sepiki coming in at 1 o'clock. That's going to be cool. He's going to talk to us about all the new laws that we're going to eventually break probably in Nashville. So we're going to go through the run. 177 new laws. Not really a fan of adding that many new laws, to be perfectly honest with you. And Scott's going to have to tell me why I should be a fan. We're going to talk about all of that. But the breaking news, the big story, is the one big beautiful bill, which has officially passed the Senate. This is what it sounded like moments ago as J.D. Vance broke the tie to get this through.
The yeas are 50. The nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
There it is. The big, beautiful bill. Now we'll go back to the House where we're going to have more debate and we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm not totally confident this thing is going to go through for the 4th. I think that it's going to be a lot harder to get it through the House than it was the Senate. But I think that we do need to appreciate the moment that we're in. And this is a big win for the Trump administration. They want to get this through by any means necessary. And Charlie Kirk posted a tweet about 45 minutes ago when this all came down. And he goes, just remember, at this moment in 2017, John McCain came down on the Senate floor and did a thumbs down. 2025, we have Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote to pass his signature agenda bill. Deportations, tax cuts, border wall, spending cuts, all coming. Let's go. America, baby. America. Donald Trump was actually at Alligator Alcatraz when the news broke that the bill had passed, and he's in the middle of a press conference, and it kind of, it started bubbling under the surface, and then the news made it up to the president, and we had a bit of an ovation as the news broke that the bill had made it through the Senate.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Thank you. I'm waiting, listening to these wonderful words, and they are music to my ears, but I was also wondering how we're doing, because I know this is prime time. It shows that I care about you because I'm here and I probably should be there, but we do care. Thank you very much.
I love, I shouldn't be here, but it does show that I care. So that's good. That's good.
Do you know off the top of your head who the 3 Republicans were that didn't vote for it?
I do.
Tom Tillis, Rand Paul, Susan Collins.
Well, there you go.
So 2 losers and a guy that was going to vote against it no matter what. Tom Tillis, he's not even running for re-election. Susan Collins is definitely not a Republican, so one Republican that we have to deal with, and it was Rand Paul, who we like anyway. So, yeah. The Senate passed the big, beautiful bill, 27-hour amendment vote-a-rama. That's the new record, 27 hours. Have you seen videos of people falling asleep? I haven't seen them yet. I didn't do a thorough search to be fully transparent. But I'm sure people were falling asleep last night during this 27-hour vote-a-rama. J.D. Vance casting that tie-breaking vote on the final passage, as well as during a couple of final amendment votes beforehand. The bill includes an enormous assemblage of Trump's campaign promises on border security, energy, national security, spending cuts, and taxes, reports Breitbart. Bill also includes Medicaid reforms and an increase in defense spending. They say it didn't come easy. Tensions have been high at times, but we're at the end now, says Senator Lindsey Graham, notorious neocon and war hawk, who, fun fact, Trump is going to go after Thomas Massie for primarying, but he can endorse Lindsey Graham, and that's totally cool. It's totally fine. Totally good with that, I guess. Anyway, moving on. The final series of votes came after an agreement ensuring Majority Leader John Thune has the votes to pass legislation and wrap up amendment votes. But in the spirit of the exercise, last-minute drama cast the bill's future into question. It was 10-12 EST, 9 o'clock our time. Senators were instructed to make their way to the floor and plan to be in their seats in 15 minutes. 1 hour later, a large group of senators were still huddled in the days negotiating with the help of Senate staff, including Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, who has become just a fan favorite. I know you know Elizabeth McDonough, Senate parliamentarian. Everybody, who doesn't love Elizabeth McDonough? Eventually, an agreement was reached, and the Senate, anxious to end the marathon session, breezed through the final votes. Again, it was Tom Tillis, Rand Paul, and Susan Collins who voted against it. Losers. But the big, beautiful bill now heads to the House, where a handful of moderates have protested the Medicaid reforms. A large block of spending hawks, mostly consisting of House Freedom Caucus members, want more spending cuts in line with the version of the bill that the House sent to the Senate. This is going to take some time. The first procedural vote is going to be Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Trump's July 4th deadline, 4th of July deadline, they say remains in reach. That's what they're saying. Not sure. We'll see. We'll find out together. We'll cross that bridge together. But the news is good. In the meantime, Donald Trump is down at Alligator Alcatraz. Before he headed to Alligator Alcatraz, quite a few people wanted to ask him questions. Donald Trump always stops. He answers questions for the press. I know it's a revolutionary concept after dealing with Joe Biden for 4 years, but Trump doesn't mind. And one of the topics of conversation was the beef with Elon being back on. Donald Trump, he's not dodging the questions, and he's actually going a little bit harder than he went the last time, saying maybe we should turn Doge around to look at Elon and all of those contracts.
I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car, it has one problem. It blows up, So I'm going to give that one to Peter. Let Peter touch it up.
Well, question, doesn't gasoline blow up too?
Everything can blow up if you put your mind to it.
That's true.
You just got to have a little American ingenuity. You can figure out how to blow something up. Don't you worry. But that's Donald Trump. So maybe we'll turn Doge around. A lot of the conversation on the internet is like, what's going on with Elon and Trump? Is this completely kayfabe? That's what a lot of the 4D chess guys are saying. They say, oh, this beef is totally fabricated. They're using it to create distance between Elon and Trump because Elon was hurting in the sales department when it came to Teslas. After the first round of beef, he's already skyrocketed to the top of the charts in many European countries with Tesla vehicles. And they're saying maybe that's the case. Other individuals are saying, no, that's total BS, bovine scatology, if you will. This beef is real. Elon is absolutely mad that there isn't enough spending cuts. Elon is absolutely just irate over the EV mandates. After everything he did for this administration, the fact that they cut those out was a bridge too far. I don't really know where the truth is in the middle of it. And to be perfectly honest with you, I honestly don't care. Elon talks about making a third party, and I think that would be a great idea, except when you get to the point of governing, because then nothing is ever going to happen. So like it sounds fun and it sounds great, but I don't know how realistic it is. If anybody could make it happen, it would be Elon. He's got the money and the capital to do it, but it's just going to be one of those wait and see things. Who knows? But is the beef real? Is it kayfabe? I have no idea. Donald Trump said when it came to the big beautiful bill, they'll only be cutting waste, fraud, and abuse when it comes to Medicaid. So the Democrats with the fear-mongering, you guys can keep that up, but we all understand what time it is.
Are there concerns about the Medicaid, cuts, though, Mr. President?
No, we're not going to be playing with Medicaid.
An estimated
Only waste, fraud, and
million
abuse.
Americans could lose
Yeah,
their
the
coverage.
Democrats have it wrong.
Promise?
Yeah. Waste, fraud, and abuse. In fact, if you look at what's gone on, we've gone way back. We take care of Medicaid. We take care of Medicare. They will blow Medicare and Medicaid because they have no idea what they're doing. Just like they don't have any idea what they did on the border, they have no idea. Medicaid is in big trouble with the Democrats.
So you can promise anyone who loses their health care coverage that is because of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Waste, fraud, only waste, fraud, and abuse, which is what everybody wants.
Only waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, he said this standing next to Ron DeSantis, which is pretty interesting. I think this is the first time that these guys have been hanging out together, at least if I recall correctly, since before the election. I can't recall. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody in the text line remembers another instance where these two have been in the same room together. But I don't remember Trump and DeSantis getting along or seeming as chummy as they did today in a very, very long time. Donald Trump actually commented on that while they were touring Alcatraz, and they said, "What's up with the relationship with you and Ron DeSantis? Are you guys, are you guys pals again? Did we just become best friends? Are you guys going to do karate in the garage? What's the deal?" Donald Trump answered that question.
How would you describe the relationship, and what future does Governor DeSantis have?
I think it's a 10. Maybe 9-9, because there might be a couple of little wounds. So maybe it's not 9. I think we have a 10. We get along great.
So it seems like the relationship between DeSantis and Trump has been repaired. And if DeSantis and Trump can be repaired after all of the high heel boot jokes and the like, well, then I'm sure that Elon and Trump can get back on the same page at some point down the road. Trust me, if DeSantis and Trump can, I'm sure Elon and Trump can as well. Now, Alligator Alcatraz, it may be the most magical place in Florida. It's quickly surpassing Disney with just the vibe on the ground. Just the vibe is really chill, and I'm a huge fan. Donald Trump said we have a lot of bodyguards at Alligator Alcatraz, and the bodyguards and the cops that they have, they do come in the form of alligators.
And is this the model going forward, Mr. President?
Can be. I mean, you don't always have land so beautiful and so secure. There's a lot of bodyguards and a lot of cops that are in the form of alligators. You don't have to pay them so much.
You don't have to pay them. You don't have to pay them. They're in the form of alligators. It's actually under budget and ahead of schedule. Alligators are very cheap. There's no labor laws with the alligators, and the illegal aliens aren't huge fans. As he's touring the now infamous Alligator Alcatraz, he did make a comment. He said, you know who wanted him here the most was Joe Biden. Joe Biden wanted Donald Trump here at Alligator Alcatraz.
Right here, to be honest. Hey, Biden wanted me in here, okay? He wanted me. It didn't work out that way, but he wanted me in here, that son of a bitch.
I love, just under his breath right at the end, that son of a bitch. Yeah, we know. Biden wanted to lock him up. Donald Trump touring a prison saying, this is where the Democrats wanted to put me. This and the Democrats will tell you this is too harsh for illegal aliens, people that snuck into our country, people that have murdered, people that have raped, members of transnational gangs, members of terrorist organizations. How could you do that without due process? Yet they wanted to put Donald Trump there. I love that he brought that up. I do. Trump also had some thoughts on Gavin Newsom, and he said, Newsom could actually learn a few things from DeSantis and what he's doing down at Alligator.
President, I apologize. Let's watch.
So I would say he should call the governor, Christie, and I'm sure you'd give him because his state is a disaster, and he doesn't do this.
Well, they have the original Alcatraz, so you guys could approve him being able to set one of these up over there. I'm sure the secretary would be happy to do that and provide. My sense is he's probably not going to bite on that, but I don't know that they'd be able to come in at cost because they tried to do this high-speed rail. They spent like $150 billion, no tracks. We've got a privately funded rail in Florida from Miami to Orlando, cost the taxpayers $0, and it's very successful. So just a much different approach between states.
We're not going to let him get anywhere near Alcatraz. And it cost 100 times more than they thought. No.
He's a savage. We won't let Newsom anywhere near Alcatraz because they'll be 100 times over budget. He's not lying.
He ought to come here and study this because he could learn a lot.
Yes, first person checking into the room, sir. Tomorrow.
Hopefully tomorrow, within the next 24 hours.
They have the doctors, they have all the professionals.
There's going to be a security sweep because there have been civilians here, so they will sweep this multiple times to make sure there's nothing can be used as weapons or any contraband. And then once that's cleared, then they'll do. So it's really up to Secretary. I know has got people in the queue, and so they'll be ready to receive.
Ready to receive starting tomorrow. Vacancy is going to get a little tight over at Alligator Alcatraz, and I'm a huge fan. They talked a lot more while they were touring the facility over at Alligator Alcatraz, and they had a longer press briefing after the fact. We'll bring you all the highlights on the way. Chris Hand in for Chad Benson. This is the Chad Benson Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, the big, beautiful bill has cleared the Senate and heads back to the House. We'll tell you what our U.S. senators say it's going to mean for Tennesseans coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Ken Weaver in the newsroom. Just crushing it. All Ken does is crush. Just for the
thank
record.
you, Brother Chris.
My name is Chris Hanneman for Chad Benson. You can listen to the show anywhere. iHeartRadio, tune in, the FM dial. You can watch the show. We're on Super Talk TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Why would you want to watch a radio show on TV? Well, during my show, we always have video elements for all the audio that you hear on your radio. I got a text during the break from my friend Jamie Underwood. He runs Borough Holistic Health out in Murfreesboro. And he said, please coin the phrase Gatortraz.
Gatortraz.
Gatortraz. And I started thinking to myself, and I thought, Gatortraz has a nice ring to it. But what about Alligator? Little lame.
Yeah, doesn't flow.
All right.
Doesn't flow.
Okay.
How about...
Okay. Ken. We got it. We got it, dude. I got it, Ken.
No, I'm not running it down.
Tell me how you really feel, brother. It's fine. It's fine. Donald Trump is happy no matter what you call it. He's just happy that it's open.
It's a great honor to be deep in Florida, the Florida Everglades, to open America's newest migrant detention center. It's incredibly built, and you're seeing that yourself. That's why I said, let the press join us on our walk so they can see what's happening. It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. But very soon this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation. And a lot of these people are self-deporting back to their country where they came from. Quite a few. We're amazed at actually the number. We took the FEMA money that Joe Biden allocated to pay for the free luxury hotel rooms, where he's paying hundreds of millions of dollars in New York City, and we used it to build this project. And Your Honor, was just a little fraction of that money, the money they spent on that.
So he's pretty excited. Now, one of the things that I did note that he said during his opening remarks there is you can self-deport. Like this doesn't have, Alligator Alcatraz does not have to be your destination. It doesn't. Your destination can be going home, and you can do that with the CBP Home app. And you can get yourself a little $1,000 on the way out the door, and then you could come back legally. If you don't want to do that, well, then Alligator Alcatraz is going to be your destination. Kristi Noem, though, during the tour, she reiterated that point, saying, guys, listen, as we're looking around this facility, you don't have to come here. Just for all the Democrats that are going to be protesting Alligator Alcatraz, Alligator, whatever you want to call it, for all the Democrats that are going to be protesting, oh, no, we can't send them there. That's inhumane. What do we do? Well, they could go home. They could self-deport today. Nobody's stopping them.
People don't have to come here. If they self-deport and go home, they can come back legally. We will let them come back legally.
And there is a lot of self-deportation.
Yes. But if you wait and we bring you to this facility, you don't ever get to come back to America. You don't get the chance to come back and be an American again and work here.
So we had Kristi Noem, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump touring Alligator Alcatraz, and the message that we want to get across is like, yeah, this could be your future if you don't make the right choices. Now, you could make the right choices. You could go home. You could get that travel stipend, and then you could come back into America legally through a port of entry the right way. The choice is up to you. Make no mistake about it. And if you don't want to self-deport, well, then you're going to come back to Alligator Alcatraz, and you're never going to be able to come back into America. Part of me hopes that they opt for the second option, because you already broke into this country. If we have to come find you, I'd just rather you not come back. That's just me personally. That's me personally. I hope they don't self-deport, because I don't want a lot of these individuals coming back into this country. Go find them. Go find them. In the meantime, though, Donald Trump is there, and he wants to say, guys, the numbers are so low, and it's because of the Border Patrol agents that we've been able to accomplish what we have been able to accomplish thus far.
With the help of those incredible Border Patrol agents, we now have the lowest level of daily border crossings ever recorded. As you know, last month, the month of May, just got released 2 days ago, the number of illegal aliens into the United States was zero.
Zero goose egg. It's unbelievable, yet it's happening. And we're doing this by enforcing the laws on the books. Donald Trump had a lot more things to say, and he started taking some jabs. I know you're shocked. Donald Trump taking jabs? Yeah, at who? Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, especially Kamala Harris. You're going to want to hear this. I'll play it for you after the news with Ken Weaver, which starts right now on Super Talk.
.12:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we've got a injury crash in the North Gulch. This is going to be Church Street at I-40. That's going to be slowing things there on both roads. And the U.S. Senate has passed President Trump's tax cut and spending bill, that one big, beautiful bill. Stephen Portnoy.
Exhausted senators voted from their seats more than 26 hours after they began a round-the-clock series of votes to tweak the massive bill. In the end, 3 Republicans voted against it: Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, and Rand Paul of Kentucky. Paul complained about the bill's $5 trillion debt ceiling increase, while Collins and Tillis focused on the measure's Medicaid provisions. Both of those issues now hang over the bill as it heads back to the House.
Yeah, Tennessee U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn says this bill spares Tennesseans a $2,600 tax increase and the loss of 129,000 jobs next year. And she was able to get rid of the part of the bill that would lower restrictions on states' AI regulations. She says otherwise could allow big tech to continue to exploit kids, creators, and conservatives. Democrats on the attack, making claims the big, beautiful bill is going to hurt people. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
When people start losing their Medicaid, when they start losing their jobs, when their electric bills go up, when their premiums go up, when kids and parents lose SNAP funding, the people of America will remember this vote.
Yeah, all of that's based on Congressional Budget Office estimates. Here in Nashville, the driver who nearly ran over 2 Metro police officers and led police on a low-speed chase on flat tires down I-24 is in custody. She was initially found unconscious inside of the car on Burnett Road. It went on to I-24, backed traffic up for miles in the 7 o'clock hour. We're waiting for details on this driver to find out why she did what everybody watched during morning rush. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Are angels real or a figment of the imagination? Angel means messenger. Angel or angels are mentioned over 350 times in the Bible, and because all Scripture is God-breathed, we know that angels are real and were created to glorify and to serve God. When Joseph doubted how Mary became pregnant and that she was to give birth to Jesus, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. "Do not be afraid. The child within her has been conceived by the Holy Spirit." Angels bring God's messages to people. Protect God's people, offer encouragement, give guidance, carry out punishment, patrol the earth, and fight the forces of evil. But there are also bad angels. Satan is an angel of high rank and led many angels in a rebellion against God. Although angels are powerful, they are not to be worshipped. Learn more about good and bad angels by scanning the QR code.
For many of us, generators are becoming a must-have household appliance. From unpredictable weather to surprise outages, it's better to be safe than sorry. Generator Supercenter of Nashville offers fast and easy installations with 24/7 service and monitoring to all brands of generators and expert repairs done right. Our mission is to make owning a backup generator simple and easy. Visit your local store today or check us out online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
I had to look at Bell and say, is that me? It's 1237, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right. Well, I'm not going to co-sign this instrumental. Chris Hand in for Chad Benson here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So we were talking a little bit earlier about decorating for 4th of July, and I swear my phone was listening to me. We did that during the cross with Brian Wilson because now I'm getting all these yard decoration advertisements, and the targeted ads are getting really good. They sent me a targeted ad for gnomes, garden gnomes, except they're armed with ARs. And I didn't know I needed this, but now I do. They should get some of these outside of Alligator Alcatraz. See that? Look at that on the stream.
Are the gnomes holding like
AR-15s and like laying down in like a sniper's position? Yes. I mean, the targeted ads are getting good. They're getting good. I didn't know I needed that.
You got to make sure the beard doesn't get stuck in the trigger.
Yep. I'm also looking at these gnomes, and I'm checking out their trigger discipline. There's one gnome that looks like he's about to fire.
Hey, Chris, as an aside, I have my phone turned off where it doesn't listen to me. I have to push a button if I want to use the Android app.
Really?
And it's still...
still gets
they're
you?
lying to me because Chad and I will be talking about something on the air, and then I'll look at the phone a few minutes later, and boom, there's ads are starting to pop up for what we were talking about.
Yeah. Listen, I hope that the illegal aliens are getting targeted ads too, and I hope that the targeted ads are saying, visit Alligator Alcatraz. It is beautiful this time of year. It's the most magical place on earth. Donald Trump was talking about Alligator Alcatraz. First, at this press briefing, he wanted to give props to border officials, Border Patrol, DHS. The number of illegals released into this country so far in May was 0. That's a goose egg. It's unbelievable, yet here we are. Donald Trump was giving these guys their flowers moments ago.
0. Even I find that hard to believe. Somebody must have gotten it, I think. I don't know, but they say 0. And the people that count them are radical left Democrats. So when a radical left Democrat tells me it's 0, I believe him. But there's still much work to do. In the 4 years before I took office, Joe Biden allowed 21 million people, that's a minimum, I think it was much higher than that, illegal aliens to invade our country. He invaded our country just like a military would invade. It's tougher because they don't wear uniforms. You don't know who they are.
Facts.
More than the populations of New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, and Philadelphia combined.
And the left says NBD.
That's what came into our country from prisons, from mental institutions, from street gangs.
But, Mr. President, they just want to do the jobs that Americans don't want to do, like human trafficking and hustling fentanyl and extorting other illegal aliens.
Drug dealers, it's disgusting. This enormous country-destroying invasion has swamped communities nationwide with massive crime, crippling costs, and burdens far beyond what any nation could withstand. No nation could withstand what we did, and we're in the process of doing it, but we have some great people doing it now, and you see them up here with me.
Yeah, he's got a lot of great people up there with him. He's surrounded by Kristi Noem. He's got Ron DeSantis to his side, as well as Border Patrol head Todd Lyons and more. And he says, listen, I got to know Border Patrol and ICE very well, unlike the previous administration. And this is when Donald Trump just starts throwing haymakers. And it's like, stop. You've already beaten her. Stop beating that woman, yet he continues.
And I've gotten to know the Border Patrol and ICE very well. Unlike Kamala, she was the border czar, but she never saw the border. She never made one phone call. She was some border czar. She would have been some president. Probably would have been slightly better than Biden, though. I had to run against both of them, you know? The one guy, it's like a fighter. You knock out the one guy who's doing badly, then they put somebody else in. But fortunately, she was a stiff also.
This man has no filter.
He said, fortunately.
Oh, my gosh.
Fortunately, she was a stiff also.
Put somebody else in, but fortunately, she was a stiff also.
Oh.
She is a stiff. She is. Fortunately. Fortunately, she was also a stiff. You know, It's not just Trump that acknowledges that Kamala's a stiff. You understand this, right? There's stories going around now that Democrat donors are telling Kamala Harris that California isn't a consolation prize because she's been eyeballing the gubernatorial race there in California. She wants to be California's governor. And the donors are just like, please don't.
Yeah, I wonder what Barack and George Clooney think about that.
Oh, my gosh, Barack. Barack should run for governor of California.
Well, as soon as they start talking about it, they're going to be telling her, the country, that she's the greatest possible choice, while behind the scenes they're going, you're a loser, lady.
Yes.
Just get out of here.
Yes. Listen, Post Millennial has this story. As former Vice President Kamala Harris considers a potential run for governor of California, some of the state's most influential Democratic donors have expressed deep skepticism with that prospect. Many are disappointed from what some have described as her, listen to this, pathetic and traumatizing presidential campaign last fall against Donald Trump. Pathetic.
There's your vote of confidence.
Pathetic and traumatizing. Traumatizing. There are Democrats who are going to be talking about this presidential election in therapy for years. Do you understand that, right? It's so good. It's so good. It's traumatizing.
Oh.
Tell me about your childhood. Well, it all really got bad when
it started in 2024.
The date was June 27th, and they had told us for months that Joe Biden was as sharp as a tack and was running circles around his staff, and we all believed him. We saw the videos of him shaking hands with ghosts, but we thought those were cheap fakes. And then they slopped in Kamala Harris without a vote, and we thought, this is it. This is it. We got a candidate. $1.5 billion later, and we realized we didn't have a candidate at all.
And she ended up $20 million in debt at the end of her campaign.
Unbelievable.
I'm still convinced that Biden stuck it to President Obama and George Clooney whenever he went ahead and endorsed her.
You still think that?
I still think that, man, because, I mean, they were silent for like 8 days.
To believe that, though, you have to, you almost have to give Biden some cognitive clarity.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, maybe he just assumed.
or it was Dr. Jill sticking it to Biden. I mean, sticking it to Obama and the deep state. One way or the other, yeah, they got it stuck to him. Listen to this, though. There's a donor speaking to Politico under the condition of anonymity. Kamala just reminds you that we're in a complete bleep storm. The donor added that another Harris run would bring back memories of the traumatizing election against Donald Trump.
Well, when you get beat like a narc at a biker rally, why should they have any confidence in you at all?
He said like a narc at a biker rally. Oh, jeez. Well, there's more. There's more. With Biden, we got bamboozled. I think Harris did the best she could in that situation, but obviously she knew about the cognitive decline too, the donor continued. I've written so many checks because I knew the Trump administration would be horrible, but we're living in a nightmare because of the Democrats. I'm furious at them, truly. Truly, truly. I bet a lot of Democrats probably feel this way. A lot of them. Yet I think that they need to aim some of that anger back at the establishment media, back at the establishment politicians, and all of those losers. As Harris continued in her political trajectory after the election, with the gubernatorial race as an option, it's not the first time the Democrats have been publicly critical of the former vice president. Some delegates of the California Democrat Party convention openly fretted that California was simply a fallback option for Harris last month. Some at the convention worried that Harris is more interested in positioning herself for a 2028 presidential run than in governing the state. Don't you already have that problem with Gavin Newsom? You do. Spoiler alert. My concern for Harris is that she would be using this position, if she won, as a placeholder for her second run at the presidency, Delegate Carol Weiss told reporters. Since losing to Donald Trump, Harris has largely avoided the spotlight, and she's been at home drinking. But the outlet reported that Harris has embarked on a quiet schedule of thank you visits, catch-up calls, and listening sessions. Listening sessions.
Yeah, that's listen to me cackle.
Yeah. That's her listening session. And she's touching base with her most trusted supporters, all three of them, as she weighs her options. The Democrat politician is expected to decide whether to throw her hat in the ring by the end of the summer. One Democrat fundraiser said a Harris candidacy would bring up the whole pathetic last presidential, which no one wants to hear about again. And then it's the whole, did you know about Joe Biden thing? Yeah, that would come up. Scott Drexler, an advisor to Democrat donors, summarized the mood bluntly. It's very fair to say that there is not an overwhelming clamor for Harris to jump in the gubernatorial race. It's very hard for there to be one if it's not 100% clear she really wants to do it. Well, I think you'd have to go back to what Trump said, when you're thinking about is she going to run? Would she be a good candidate? I think you'd have to lean back on, no, she's a stiff too.
Then they put somebody else in, but fortunately she was a stiff also.
He's so good. State Party delegate Madison Zimmerman said, California isn't a consolation prize. It's not a consolation prize. I don't even think it's a prize at all, to be perfectly honest with you. Oh, she's a stiff. She's a stiff.
Else in, but fortunately she was a stiff also.
Yeah, fortunately she was a stiff also. He didn't spend a lot of time going in on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, though. But he did talk about the cost of illegal aliens and what that cost is doing to our country, especially when you look at it through the lens of the big, beautiful bill. Everybody's talking about cutting spending. He said, listen, do you understand what we're paying for illegal aliens? It's insane.
In total, the average illegal alien costs American taxpayers an estimated $70,000. That's each. $70,000. I think that number is even low. If you care about balancing the budget, the single most impactful step we can take is to fully reverse the Biden migration invasion. One of the worst invasions we've ever had. We've never had an invasion like this. We've had invasions, but we've taken care of them. We've never had an invasion like this. And it's with us. And we have some very bad people out there looking to do big harm. That's why the one big, beautiful bill includes funding for 3,000 new Border Patrol officers and 10,000 new ICE agents. And I've gotten to know the Border Patrol and ICE very well.
That's why we need the one big, beautiful bill. The average illegal alien costs American taxpayers an estimated $70,000. Donald Trump said there in his comments that he thinks that that's low, and I would tend to agree. I mean, when you factor in the free cell phone, the free food, the hotel room in New York City, the plane rides, yeah, it's gotta be a bit more than $70,000 a year. After 1 o'clock, we're gonna have State Representative Scott Sepiki in, and I would imagine that Scott thinks that estimate is a little low as well. $70,000 per illegal alien. Is that low? You think that's low, or is that right on the money? $70,000. It costs the taxpayer $70,000 per illegal alien in the country. You think that's right on par? He's giving me. He's waffling. I think it's a little high.
He's saying it's close.
It's close. I think it's going to be.
If they're incarcerated, it's $37,000 a year.
If they're incarcerated, well, we know the grand majority of them are roaming free, thanks to 46. Gosh, we are still cleaning up that mess. Looking forward to the conversation with Scott Sepiki that's going to happen after 1 o'clock. We got a lot of new laws coming into Tennessee, 177 to be exact. Scott is going to detail every single one of them. Every one.
In order.
In order, alphabetically. We'll do that on the way. Hang on with us. A lot more to cover. 1251 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, the big, beautiful bill passes while, at least in the U.S. Senate, it's headed back to the House. All of this while President Trump is touring Alligator Alcatraz. And as far as that bill is concerned, Tennessee's U.S. senators are telling us what it's going to do for Tennesseans. And we'll tell you coming up at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Ken Weaver in the newsroom, 1256, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Chris Hand in for Chad Benson, who will be checking in at about 2 o'clock and then riding out the rest of your day for Matt Murphy. In studio now, we got State Representative Scott Sepiki. What's up, Scott? How we doing, man? You turn your mic on, hit that red button. There you go. Boom.
Great. Fantastic.
Perfect.
Where's Bell?
Bell, what are we doing, man? He's slow. He's slow to the draw today. We got 177 new laws to go through.
Drunk. I can't help it.
No, we don't. No,
we're going to go through every single one of these with a fine-tooth comb.
So I can give Bell and Ken some confidence here. We did not pass the bill on hair length and beard length for radio personalities.
That's good. I know they're both very
It was
excited.
close. It was a couple votes short. That's all it was.
Well, we're going to need you guys to get back in there and make it happen next session.
There must be a couple of long hairs in there.
Oh, my.
Hey, how do we get our own Alligator Alcatraz here in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Lord knows we could fill it up.
Well, one, I don't want to import alligators because we have enough like raccoons here and things like that.
Could we do an armadillo Alcatraz?
We possibly could.
Or a bear Alcatraz in the Smoky Mountains? What can we do?
Well, like I told you off air, I was listening to before I got over here about you talking about the border. And one of the things that we're seeing a significant downturn in is fentanyl and human trafficking. In two parts. Number one, we've added over 225 state troopers across the state of Tennessee.
Which is huge.
Which most of them probably focused on the eastern side, coming out of Arkansas, coming out of Texas through Memphis. And number two, with the border being closed, we've cut off the pipeline of fentanyl and of human trafficking coming up from the border.
Yep.
And so we're starting to see a lot of positive results. We will continue to double down on that as a General Assembly, making sure that we are providing as much money and resources to law enforcement that we need, aside from Nashville not wanting to. Where there will be no sanctuary cities in the state of Tennessee by law. If the Democrats want to change that law, I suggest you win elections and change the laws then.
Yeah.
But until you win elections, the people of Tennessee have clearly spoken that we want crime under control. We want less drug coming through, less human trafficking, and we want no sanctuary cities, period.
Amen.
And there we are.
I mean, it seems pretty simple.
Yeah.
And we are an absolute magnet for these cartels, the same way that we're a magnet for the businesses. We were talking about this a little bit off air. Businesses want to come here because we're so centrally located to everything. I think you said we're halfway from everywhere.
Right.
And the cartels view it the same way. So getting those troopers in and ramping up those enforcement operations are huge.
And that's what we're doing. Law enforcement has, we saw the 287G program. That's where local law enforcement can partner with ICE to get the necessary training to do interdictions themselves. The Highway Patrol now is a 287G program. I would ask you, as for your listeners, to go to your local sheriffs and go to your law enforcement and ask them to participate in the 287G program. And let's get all law enforcement, when they're doing normal traffic stops, let's have them the ability to do ICE interdictions, and let's get the people here that are illegally out of our country.
It seems like common sense. Why wouldn't we have been doing this already?
I don't know. Under the Biden administration, the 287G program was shut down. They weren't doing it. We saw what happened with the border, and the border, I guess czar is the lack of a better word. She was, but she wasn't. But we have a new boss in town. We have a new sheriff in town, in Tom Holman.
Yep.
And the rule of law will be enforced. They didn't have to enact any new laws. Start enforcing them.
Yep.
And in Tennessee, we've made it perfectly clear in the General Assembly that we will enforce the laws on immigration. We will enforce the laws to make sure that people are here legally. And one of the bills I'm working on next year that we talked about was E-Verify. Currently in the state of Tennessee, if you have less than 5 employees and they can't provide the normal documentation to show they're here legally, a birth certificate or visa or whatever, that you don't have to do E-Verify right now, which is totally absurd.
I know, and the bill that you're talking about is going to bring up some real consequences for businesses that hire illegal aliens,
right?
Which is something that this audience has been clamoring for since I started 2 years ago. I'm really excited about this piece of legislation. Scott Sepiki's in studio. We're going to talk about it when we get back. 101 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Cool, man. Flowing. You're good at this stuff. Like, you always have a good flow and a good cadence to your voice. Like, there's some people that just don't get it. I feel like you get it.
Well, you ask leading questions.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And right now in our nation's capital, President Trump's one big, beautiful bill of tax cuts and border security and spending has cleared the U.S. Senate.
After a marathon voting session that lasted more than 26 hours, the Senate passed the massive measure by the slimmest of margins. 3 GOP senators voted against it, but Vice President J.D. Vance cast the tie-breaking vote in favor. The bill now goes back to the House, where conservatives and moderates have their own issues with some of the changes that have been made by the Senate, including a $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling and a Congressional Budget Office price tag in excess of $3 trillion.
Yeah, Senators Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, and Rand Paul voted against the bill, and you're not hearing any praise from Democrats. Here's Minority Leader Schumer.
Anyone who loses their health insurance doesn't think it's beautiful. It's bad for every state. Ask Tom Tillis.
That is based on estimates by the Congressional Budget Office. But Tennessee U.S. Senators Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty are hailing its passage. Hagerty saying it bolsters the American economy through investments in job growth and tax relief for families and businesses. Senator Blackburn says it spares Tennesseans from a $2,600 tax increase and loss of 129,000 jobs next year. And she was able to amend it to keep it from restricting states' AI regulations, which she says could allow big tech to continue to exploit kids, creators, and conservatives. President Trump was touring Alligator Alcatraz in the Florida Everglades when the bill passed the Senate.
Very soon, this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation.
Trump administration says the facility to house illegal immigrants will be able to house up to 5,000. But it's drawn criticism already from immigration activists, environmental groups, and local tribal leaders. Jimmy Swaggart has died at the age of 90. ABC's Sherry Preston with more on what he may be best remembered for, a downfall in the late 80s.
Jimmy Swaggart grew up poor in rural Faraday, Louisiana, and once said he was so moved his hair tingled when he first heard the word of the Lord when he was 8. He would go on to become one of the biggest TV preachers in the world when in 1988 he was caught in a sex scandal.
And I would ask that your precious...
He wept while apologizing, then resigned from the Assemblies of God. Another scandal would follow, but Swaggart kept on preaching, sometimes with his son Donnie. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Yeah, the post on Swaggart's Facebook page says he met his beloved Savior and entered the portals of glory. He had been hospitalized for 2 weeks leading up to his death today in Louisiana. Here in Nashville, a woman's in custody after that slow-moving pursuit in a stolen car that started around 3 o'clock this morning in Old Hickory and ended at around 7:30 when state troopers finally pinned the flat-tired vehicle on I-24, backing up rush hour traffic for miles. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
107 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? Chris Hand in for Chad Benson, who will be in for Matt Murphy later on this afternoon. You can listen to the show anywhere, iHeartRadio, tune in, the FM dial. You can watch the show. We're live on Super Talk TV, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube is my personal favorite. Hit like, hit subscribe. We're joined in studio by State Representative Scott Sepiki. How are you, Scott?
Doing fantastic. Oh, there it is.
I didn't know you had a theme song. My walk-up music. I love it. Good job, nailed it. Scott's in here.
That was his walk-up music when he played for the Nashville Sounds.
Really? I didn't know you played for the Sounds.
92.
Really?
And then in 93, I think in 92, either 91 or 92. And then in the other year, I played for the Nashville Express when Michael Jordan played baseball.
No kidding.
If you watched Michael Jordan play baseball in Nashville, you watched me play baseball.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
A job.
Yeah.
Just a job. I mean, when you start getting paid for it, it's a job. It's fun, but it's still, you're aware that if you don't produce every day, you don't have that job very long.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I spent 6 years in the minor leagues for the White Sox and the Twins. My signing class with the White Sox was, I think it was 72 baseball players. When I retired, baseball retired me 6 years later, there were 4 people left in my class.
Really?
Attrition, firing, cut, done. It's very tough. You watch the Nashville Sounds. Those are all baseball players that could play and play very well in the big leagues that are waiting for their chance.
Yep.
Baseball is a very unique sport where Derek Jeter, how many years did he play for the Yankees? Like a decade and a half?
Yep.
That means no shortstop in AAA ever made it to the big leagues for the Yankees. Jorge Posada, the catcher.
Yep.
Williams, the center fielder, right? That means nobody made it to the big leagues in those positions.
Yeah,
and so you sit in AAA and you wait and you wait and you wait, knowing that there's a young guy coming up behind you possibly every year.
It's crazy.
It's tough.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough gig.
And then I spent 2 years down in Venezuela playing baseball down there before it became a communist country.
So once they went red, you're like, all right, I got to go.
Well, I mean, I was in Caracas when Hugo Chavez had the first coup attempt.
Really?
I watched their bombers that they stole drop bombs on the Capitol in Caracas from a hotel room.
You got some stories.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's another day.
All right. We'll do that another day. I do want to talk about what we talked about before the break.
Sure.
A new legislation that you're going to be proposing this year,
yes.
and then we'll get to the laws that have passed on the books. But this one really piqued my interest because this audience, since I started a couple years back, said, and even before that when I was listening to Phil, we got to demagnetize the state. If these illegal aliens are finding work here, one of the things that we need to do is punish the businesses, and that will stop it very, very quickly. And you're proposing new legislation coming up that will penalize these businesses.
That is correct. We get a report in the General Assembly every year of businesses that violate the E-Verify codes, right? And they're fines, and the businesses just pay them because they're not that hefty. And the other problem we have is we've created a special group of business that if you're below 5 employees, you don't have to do E-Verify if they don't produce a passport or a birth certificate from the U.S. or a paperwork that shows that they're here legally to work. And so we've created this special group of businesses that are immune from E-Verify. And so what the bill does is it erases that down to zero. Everybody has to do E-Verify if your employee does not present the listed documentation to prove that they're here illegally, right? Also, it's going to raise the fines on the businesses that do hire illegal people working for them, to the point where eventually you will lose your business, your license.
What kind of fines are we talking about?
I think most of them start out like $50 to $100, and they escalate to maybe $500 after the third offense.
I mean, that's not cutting it for any of these businesses currently.
No, it's not hurting them very bad. And so
no, that's not hurting them at all.
Right.
That's not even a paper cut.
And because of the people that have come here illegally, we have a plethora of people that are here in the shadows. And the Trump administration, along with Tom Homan and Kristi Noem, has made it perfectly clear, if you're here illegally, you have to go and start over. Right, which is fair.
Self-deport, and then you can come back.
Right, it's fair. Those who don't want to self-deport, that's what we have ICE for. But we have to make sure as the state of Tennessee that we're not a magnet to attract these people to our communities who are going to live in our communities. Because if that element comes, what follows it? the element of human trafficking, the element of drugs, right?
Yep.
So we have to make sure that we are demagnetizing the state of Tennessee. Myself and others believe that this is a very good step in the right direction, partnering with the 287G program, partnering with ICE, making sure that if you can't produce the documentation to show that you were here legally, that you have to go through E-Verify, right? And then if you are a business that violates this law, that there will be consequences up into potentially losing your business license.
I think that needs to happen. And I think the fines need to be heavy.
Yes.
Like $50,000.
Well, to say don't do this. Now, we understand people make a mistake. Okay, the first round may not be severe. But if you're a repeat offender, it should escalate. And if you're a third repeat offender, I'm sorry, but you just shown that you have a willful disobedience for the law.
Yeah, I think that this could be one of the most important pieces of legislation in Tennessee history.
We'll see.
You need to make it happen.
Well, I'm going to do my best.
All right.
It takes 50 and 17 and one governor's signature.
How do you feel? How's your confidence level on bringing this and what that means? Because I know there's going to be a lot of special interest groups and lobbyists and different groups that are going to come into your office and say, you can't do this. We're so reliant on the illegal aliens.
Right. Well, what you got to do, and I think we can all agree on this, the immigration processes in our country is broken. It needs to be updated. It needs to be refreshed. It needs to bring technology, right, to make it more efficient for people that do want to come here and work. As long as they'll go through the screening process, we have to figure out a way to expedite them to be able to come into our country and work, right? Unless we apply the pressure to Congress, like our state passing this type of E-Verify bill, and other states, Texas, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Illinois, right? If more of us start to pass these laws, then it puts pressure on Congress to step in and say, okay, we've got to have a uniform policy change.
Yep.
And until we force that uniform policy change at the federal level, my jurisdiction in legislation stops at the Tennessee borders. My job is to protect the citizens of Tennessee.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to do in the General Assembly.
Well, hey, I appreciate it, man. I think this is a big one, and whatever we can do to help you get that over the hump, you let me know.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank
Seriously, I think that's clutch. I think these businesses do need to be punished for doing this and willfully repeating this error, quote unquote.
Well, if we do our job properly, and the business community cooperates with us, I think we'll have a Tennessee that we all want to live in, knowing that when you see somebody working here in Tennessee, they're supposed to be here working in Tennessee.
How would you work around a crew coming from Bowling Green to Northern Tennessee to do work?
So that's where you got to start to work through it, right? Subcontractors, right? You got to have language in there for subcontractors. If they're going to work in the state of Tennessee, that they have to be licensed to work in the state of Tennessee. That's where you'll catch them there.
Okay.
So you got to have, if you're going to be a subcontractor coming in here, you got to be licensed to do the work because you have to abide by all the licensing laws and all the building codes in the state of Tennessee.
So as you're going through this, are you constantly I kind of think about it like, when you pick out a name for your kid, you go, okay, I can make fun of you this way, I can make fun of you that way, so I'm not going to use that name.
Right.
Do you look at this and you kind of go, okay, this would be a loophole, that would be a loophole, this would be a loophole, and kind of try and work it out so that way you avoid all of that on the front end?
That's what you try to do. So what you'll do is you'll draft legislation, and then you'll let it out. Well, then the people are going to come forward to you who don't like it, and they're going to come tell you why. And then I say, okay, in the spirit of the law, how do I fix it and still maintain the spirit of the law? And then you work through the language, right? The first iteration you normally see that gets dropped is not the final iteration that we vote on the House or Senate floor, because you have thought process. Somebody asks you a question in committee about, hey, have you thought about this? Wow, I didn't think about that. Then you say, I'm going to hold the bill for a week. I'm going to go back and work on it. I'll bring you back an amendment to address that concern. Normally, by the time it gets to the House or Senate floor, it's been vetted enough through multiple committees that people have had a chance to look at it from a couple different angles, and especially your lobbyists who are supposed to be the information experts of those subjects, they'll come forward and say, okay, if we do it this way, it's going to create this problem, and they normally say, here's how you solve that issue. So we're not here to stifle business. We're not here to openly say, I want to go out and penalize you. What we're doing is we're trying to set a playing field that everybody can live with in regards to how we're going to make Tennessee function as a business community.
See, I like more of the idea of if you do this, we're going to penalize you.
And
that's kind of my favorite part, to be perfectly honest with you, is the penalizing. Give me a percentage. What percentage do you think is like this could come to fruition in the next session, where you're going to have significant fines against businesses for hiring illegal aliens, and by the third strike, if you're continuing to do this, you lose a business license? Like, are we talking a 15% shot? Are you confident to say 50%? Are we at 70 or 80?
I'd say
is this are we whispering sweet nothings into our ear to feel good about it?
I think depending on, and I know there's going to be a couple of groups that are going to object. You can probably figure out who they're going to object. Okay, I think we can work through them. I would say maybe 60-40 pass right now.
Okay,
because I think common sense is, we've had a problem for 4 years. I'm in education.
Yep.
I can show you the drastic increase over the last 4 years of English language learners in our school systems. It is incredible, the amount. It's almost doubled as a state financially for us.
Yeah.
Doubled.
Well, I heard it was the mayor, or former mayor of New York, Cuomo, who was running governor, he was running for mayor. He's like, we have 172 different languages in our public school systems. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and that's a symbol of strength. And I thought to myself for a second, I'm like, is it though? How many languages do the teachers speak?
Well, that's the problem.
Because that right there is going to tell me whether or not that's a symbol of strength.
That's one of the problems you have. We have it in Metro Nashville with all the different languages being spoken here. Now, technology can solve a lot of that. They have earpieces now that you can program that the teacher can be speaking English, but in the earpiece, it'll translate it into Spanish.
How much does an earpiece like that cost?
They're not very expensive when you buy them in bulk like we might have to. But the problem you have is, okay,
that's just more money on the taxpayers that we shouldn't be having to pay.
That's the bill that Leader Lamberth ran, was school districts should be able to say, hey, if you're not here legally in the state of Tennessee, why are the taxpayers paying to educate you?
Amen.
Right? And that's a direct result of some families coming across the border during the Biden administration that wound themselves up in Tennessee. By the way, we have a great economy here, if you didn't know. Look at all the cranes that surround this building. That they want to come here. They want to come here to work. They want to come here to work. Well, their kids have to go to school. And in the state of Tennessee, we take everybody. So maybe we need to take a look at this and say, okay, should we have the ability to say, if you're here illegally, okay, we'll let you go to school here, but you're going to have to pay a tuition.
Yeah, I think we absolutely need that ability. And a lot of people will frame that conversation around the compassion for the children who are here undocumented, parents to illegal aliens, say it's not their fault. We need to be compassionate. So what about the compassion for our kids who are now having to have the classroom slowed down because you have 6 non-English speakers who are all speaking their own language, holding everybody back? There's no compassion there for our children here in Tennessee.
Well, what you do is you slow the classroom down, which means you're hurting everybody's education. Especially when you have English language learners. Now I have to send them to a class to help them be integrated into English. But the state only gives you 2 years to do it before we start counting those test grades. Could you imagine, I don't know if you speak French. You speak French?
No.
Okay, could you imagine?
Is that a Canadian joke?
I mean, could you imagine immigrating to France as a student and have 2 years to become fluent in French, that you would have to take all your tests in French and speak French every day? It'd be pretty tough.
Yeah.
And get acclimated to a new. So we got to work through this. But the one thing I can tell you is, in education, the receptiveness of the federal government of our concerns have been well heard since the change of leadership.
But you guys tried to get that education stuff through the last session, and it didn't get through.
It's stuck in finance right now.
Okay, so why is it stuck in finance?
Because there was a potential there that when you run a bill like that, you potentially jeopardize federal funding. Well, if you jeopardize federal funding in the state of Tennessee, that's a net of roughly $2 billion. That means we've got to come up with $2 billion. Now, what's the actual net there? Because there's going to be programs that the federal government says I have to do that really I won't want to do because they're not efficient, right? Yep. So the true net looks to be maybe about 1.3. I mean, I'm kind of shrugging that off. 1.3 to 1.4 billion dollars, right? That's still B with a billion.
Yeah, no, I know. And this has happened to me over the past few years too, where it's like you're almost desensitized to million, billion, trillion at this point.
But Linda McMahon, right? I talked to her when she came here. She is tasked by Donald Trump to come up with a process that the federal government becomes a pass-through of money, not dictating what we have to do in policy, but a pass-through. They're sending money for things that they want us to do, but they're giving Tennessee the autonomy and freedom to figure out how we want to do them. That's what we're looking for in education in Tennessee. But it all goes with the border, right? Securing the border, stopping the flow of fentanyl, stopping the flow of human trafficking, which allows law enforcement to go back to focusing on what they do, safer communities, right? We have a problem in Memphis right now. We have a huge problem in Memphis. My son plays football down there, and he tells me every day about the shootings.
I was unaware. Is Memphis bad?
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
But we're
You're
Tennesseans,
telling me for
right?
the first time.
But Tennesseans are killing Tennesseans.
Yeah, 100%.
So why? And I can go back and show you it's lack of education.
Yep.
Okay?
Fatherless homes.
Right. I mean, it is the destruction of the family unit, which one would argue that Democrats have been supporting for decades.
Not lying.
Right? And they're funding young. I'm getting off on a tangent here.
I like a good tangent.
They are funding women through social services to have more unwed children.
Yep.
They are telling men to go and have babies and then walk away.
Yep.
Because if they're there, then the social services don't kick in.
Yep.
Right? We are destroying these kids that are showing up because mom has to have 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and they're not getting the support at home they need to be better educated. I'm going to tell you this, the number one thing, Dolly Parton, right? The number one thing she did in her life was the Imagination Library.
Yep.
Because I'm telling you, parents, if you hear one thing we're saying today, read to your kids when they're babies.
It's huge.
It works.
100%. We're in studio with Scott Sepiki. We do have a lot more to cover. We're going to talk about all of these laws that are going into effect in Tennessee when we return. It's 11:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, the big, beautiful bill has cleared the U.S. Senate. Televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has passed away, and we'll tell you more about that slow-moving police pursuit, about a 4.5-hour chase this morning in Nashville with a woman now in custody. That's coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Ken Weaver in the newsroom. My name is Chris Hand. I'm in for Chad Benson, who's going to be in for me, who is going to be in for Matt Murphy after 2 o'clock. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. I hope it does. If not, you'll catch up.
Just listen all day and it won't.
Don't worry. Yeah, we got 177 bills to get through. We got State Representative Scott Sepiki in studio. He's going to detail every single one of these bills. We were thinking about alphabetical order, then we wanted to go to chronological. Now I think we go with your favorites first. And I think that's a good place to start. What are you most proud of this last legislative session that you guys got done?
Well, for public safety, obviously, escalating the penalties for fentanyl trafficking, for human trafficking, obviously. In education, banning cell phones during instructional time, which I think is a huge step towards reclaiming our classrooms for our teachers.
100%. You were at the forefront of that, and thank you for doing that. I think that we need to talk about this more. This is a nonpartisan issue. Even
though people voted against it,
but you got Senator Slotkin out of Michigan now pushing for the exact same thing in Michigan schools. Like this is a no-brainer.
So if you go back as before you got here, Tennessee in education, we've been leading for about 6 years. I carried the first bill in the country that passed on banning males from playing female sports. That's now being passed all across the country. Federal government's talking about doing the ban right now. We went back to phonics in education. We went back to giving teachers more ability to discipline students and remove unruly, like you talked about, removing repetitively unruly students from classrooms. We went back to summer school. Now we're banning cell phones during instructional time. We're increasing recess in elementary school.
Yeah, I love those things.
I mean, we're doing things that, number one, give teachers more autonomy and more control of their classroom. And number two, we're putting the students in a better learning environment so they can function and learn. And we're seeing, looks like July 8th or 10th, something like that, right around there, we'll have our new TCAP results from third grade. We're hearing fantastic things from the districts. We're hoping that, I got my fingers crossed, I want to see 48 to 50% in third grade. We haven't been there in decades.
It's just crazy. But I do mean it. You have been a true blessing to this state when it comes to the kids in the school.
It's a teamwork.
No, but seriously, you've been really leading a lot of this fight, and I haven't given you your flowers, but I have been paying attention, and kudos to the work that you've done. We got a lot more to talk about with State Representative Scott Sepiki on the way. 1:31 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$1:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. President Trump, after the U.S. Senate passed the big, beautiful bill act of tax cuts, border security, and spending measures today.
It's a great bill. There is something for everyone, and I think it's going to go very nicely in the House. Actually, I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate.
Televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has died.
The mission of the Church of the Living God today is to live for Jesus.
Born to a preacher in Faraday, Louisiana, first cousins with singers Jerry Lee Lewis and Mickey Gilley, Jimmy Swaggart claimed to have first heard the Word of God when he was 8. His fiery Pentecostal preaching and gospel singing grew a massive television following, and then, in 1988, Swaggart was caught on camera with a New Orleans prostitute. A tearful TV apology followed.
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
He resigned from the Assemblies of God but kept his ministry going. Jimmy Swaggart was 90 years old. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Here in Nashville, a woman's in custody after a slow-moving pursuit in a stolen car. It started around 3 o'clock this morning, beginning when officers came across the vehicle in Old Hickory and the woman asleep inside. Waking up and speeding away, police say she nearly ran over 2 cops in the process. The chase went from 50 miles per hour to 5 miles per hour after spike strips flattened the tires. Channel 4's Joylyn Bukovac picks it up.
It stayed slow but dangerous at one point. The driver weaving across all 4 lanes of I-24. She eventually hit a guardrail, sending car parts flying and forcing TDOT crews to shut down all lanes of traffic to clean up that debris. The chase ended when THP pinned the vehicle against a guardrail near Briley Parkway. That woman was then taken into custody.
No police officers were hurt, and that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
We're never going to do our list.
137 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I'm in studio with State Representative Scott Sepiki, who's just laughing because we've just been going off on tangents during the break. He's like, we're never going to get to this list, are we? We'll get to the list. We're going to get to the list. We're going to get to the list. We got 177 new laws in Tennessee.
July 1st.
July 1st, which is today.
Yes.
Why is 177 new laws a good thing?
Well, one would argue that it's down from what it used to be. In the House, we cut ourselves down from 15 bills to 12 bills this year, and next year we go to 10. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make, if we're going to pass a bill, it's going to be something that is extremely meaningful because it's going to be one of 10 I can run. I'd be happy with cutting it down to 7 or 5. It would be fine with me.
Do you think that all 177 of these new laws are absolutely necessary?
They were to the General Assembly because 50 votes in the House, 17 votes in the Senate at least, and 1 governor's signature. So the people that get elected by the people of Tennessee decided that these were good things to do for us.
Do you think any of the Tennessee state reps could name every single one of these 177?
No.
No?
No, well, because there's so many that come through. I see your point.
You get what I'm saying?
Point made.
Okay, fair.
Point made.
What ones are you proud of?
There's some stuff we've done in public safety. We'll start in public safety. How's that? There's a bill, House Bill 72, that goes into effect. It protects children from hemp-derived products, protects children from hemp-driven cannabinoid products by creating a minimum sentence of 48 consecutive hours in a county jail or workhouse, and a fine of not less than $500 for people convicted of selling or distributing these products to people under the age of 21.
So these are the CBD gummies, the Delta 9s.
Yes.
And so this penalty isn't for the purchaser. This penalty would be for the seller.
Yes, that's correct.
So if you get caught selling it, that's 48 hours in jail, and it's a fine of $500.
That's correct.
I think that's a good deal.
That's a good start. We did increase the penalty for exposing children to fentanyl, House Bill 751. It enhances the penalties for knowingly placing a child in danger of possessing fentanyl in the presence of a child. This legislation established a Class E felony for anyone who exposes a child to fentanyl.
I like that.
Okay. Targeting human smuggling, House Bill 322 by Chairman Todd. It establishes 3 new offenses to target human smuggling and illegal immigrants. Class E felony offense of human smuggling, targeting traffickers who knowingly transport and conceal an illegal immigrant from law enforcement for financial gain, or encourage or influence someone to enter or remain in the country illegally while shielding them from detention.
Would this law have made a difference with Kilmar Abrego Garcia?
You know, I knew you were going to ask that, and I think the answer is yes. I think it would have. Because if you could have proven that those people were being smuggled, then he could have been held for this.
Well, because the state trooper, he knew on the scene.
Yeah.
He said, they're hauling ass.
Yeah. And, you know, what, 10 people in a van that don't speak English?
There's nothing to see here.
Well, they're going to night school.
Yeah, right.
Night school. We have a problem of threats of mass violence. I don't know if you know that or not. So House Bill 1314 by Leader Cochran.
Didn't we just have a courthouse the other day?
Yes, we did. This new law will make a knowingly threatening mass violence by any means of communication a Class E felony offense. So another person must reasonably deem it a legitimate threat that could lead to the death or injury of 4 or more people. So if you make a threat against a school and it is deemed credible, that's now a Class E felony.
Okay, explain to me Class E.
So your highest is a Class A, your lowest is a Class E. So your lowest felony is a Class E. That has mandatory minimums in it. Your highest misdemeanor, obviously, is a Class A, and I think, I'm not an attorney, but I play one sometimes, I think it's a Class D misdemeanor is the lowest.
Okay, so a Class E felony.
Yes.
What kind of penalties are surrounding that?
You need to ask an attorney on that. I'm sure there's an attorney probably listening.
Fair enough.
And they can tell you that.
Fair enough.
Hey, if you're an attorney out there listening, call into Chris and let them know what a Class E felony mandatory minimums are.
Yeah. I'm interested because I think that kind of plays a part into what we think of the bill.
Yes.
Would be what the penalty is.
That's correct. And then also combating hate crimes. In our colleges and universities, we've made it where if you have, we saw in Columbia University the threats against the Jewish community out there. Those are now going to be taken very seriously in our colleges and universities to expulsion.
Okay.
And so we are not going to do that. I'm the co-chair of the Israel-Tennessee Caucus. I can give you a whole hour on the great things that we're going to be partnering with Israel in Tennessee on. But anti-Semitism is a real thing. It is a real thing here in Tennessee, and we are not going to have that. We are not going to have hate speech against anybody in our state.
Where's the line on hate speech and free speech?
Can I interrupt real quick just to go back to what you were talking about?
Class E felony, 1 to 6 years.
Class E felony is 1 to 6 years, maximum of 6 years, and with a fine up to $3,000.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. Bell is awake.
He is. He always is. Where's the line on hate speech and free speech?
Well, see, that's the problem is and I think what you do is you get into that what a reasonable person would deem, right? Am I allowed to say I don't like you? Yeah, I'm allowed to say that. Am I allowed to make a threat against you? Probably not. I think that's where it gets very tough. And it talks about that a reasonable person. Well, what's a reasonable person? There's your jury, right? What's a reasonable jury going to deem that you have made a threat of mass violence or you have made a threat against somebody that is bona fide as anti-Semitism, right? If you're targeting if you're targeting hate towards somebody and words out of your mouth are nationality or color, I think you've crossed the line.
Really?
I think so. Don't you?
That you would cross the line from free speech into hate speech? I'd still think that would be free speech if you're targeting somebody's nationality or color.
By singling them out of something derogatory?
Yes, that would still be free speech. Like if I said the N-word to somebody, yes, that's still free speech.
It is, but if you had it in a threatening manner that they felt that they were going to be harmed, you maybe crossed over the line there. And I think that's where the law comes in. I
just think that's such a weird gray area.
It's tough. That's tough.
But you're also now forcing. My uncle used to always say this. He's like I don't want my Nazis being quiet. I want them wearing armbands so that way we can identify them. True. So you're not actually hiding any of these. You're not changing any of these hearts and minds. You're forcing them into hiding where they're going to eventually maybe something even worse happens. There's no pressure release valve there.
Quite possibly. Sometimes you pass bills you got to have amendments on. Sometimes you like you talked about earlier, the loopholes, the caveats, right? Yeah. They surface after you pass legislation.
I get really nervous about all the anti-Semitism legislation and what that means for free speech because I just don't see the line. Free speech is hate. Hate speech is free speech. It always has been. The Supreme Court said that.
True. And I think you're up against a fine line there. I think what happens is...
But I think in those situations with the fine line, we have to err on the side of the Constitution as opposed to the side of enforcement.
True. I will give you that too. I'm not arguing with you. What I'm saying is I'm not
arguing with you. It's confusing. It's confusing, and I don't think it vibes with the First Amendment.
The problem you have, and this is one of the things that we do up there, is you think of somebody comes up with, there's a problem.
Yep.
And you write a solution to it, right? And the solution sounds great, right?
Okay.
But the problem is we have 7 million Tennesseans, right? That law may mean different to 7 million different people of how you interpret it, right? The gray area. Well, what if I do this? Well, what if I say that? Well, what if I just use this, right? Is it a threat of mass violence on 2 people? Well, no, we said 4. Right? So am I going to make a threat of mass violence and make sure only 3 people hear it? It's the nuances of, okay, what are the unintended consequences of the bill? And I've been up there sometimes that we run amendments on bills is because we had unintended consequences that pop up and we need to correct them. We have restricted someone's rights inadvertently, and now we have to pull back and say, oop, we made a mistake. That's the job, is to understand as a legislator when you went too far.
Yeah.
And say, ooh, I made a mistake. I got to pull back from that.
Do you find that in the Tennessee state legislature you have those moments where you guys kind of look around and go, yeah, we messed that one up, and there's those moments of clarity? Like you've been there now almost, 10 years?
Going on 8.
Okay, so how many moments of clarity have you had at the Tennessee state legislature where you guys went, we went too far on that one, we should dial it back?
I can give you a great example. We passed something on the age of 21 of being able to buy a firearm. And we were sued constitutionally on that, and we lost in court. We had to come back and change the law to back it up to 18.
But that's not necessarily a moment of clarity. That's reacting to a lawsuit.
Well, no, the clarity was we were wrong. And you have to admit you're wrong and not double down on it. Not sit there and try to nuance the law to keep the 21, understanding that we were wrong and we have to pull back.
But it sounds like you guys figured out you were wrong because there was a lawsuit levied against you.
Well, we figured out we were wrong from that, basically that we thought we might get sued.
But you changed it when you did get sued.
Correct.
Got it.
Well, because we were already, you're out of session. If we were up there all the time, now some legislatures are up there all the time. We're not in Tennessee. Missouri is. Missouri's up there all the time, so that if you do something and you find the unintended consequences right away, you can back up right away.
Got you.
So when when you lost the lawsuit, did that basically make the law null and void until you passed it at 18?
That is, well, the courts deem it unconstitutional, and then we have to come back and amend it and change it and fix it if we so desire, or it doesn't stand at all.
Would you prefer to be in session all year round?
I would prefer to have a fall session, because I think as a representative, I want to be able to go back to the district and have normal conversations instead of being under the pressure to legislate all the time. But I think when we get out in April or May, have June, July, August off, maybe come back in September and October for 2 months for changes that need to be made, and make corrections, and maybe not have as intense of a session of all the legislation we passed, but things that come up after we adjourn that we can address and come in and take care of real quick. Representative David Hawk has had that legislation, and we just can't get it out of subcommittee. But I would think it'd be, and in the non-election year, obviously. So as we would be coming up this September, October, we'd have a 60-day session coming in, or maybe a 45-day session, where maybe in education there's something that comes up that we want to focus on for 2 weeks straight to try to figure out how we're going to change something very quickly, right? That would give us time to do that. Now, I come up here a lot. I'm working up here on education. I'm working on criminal justice stuff. But I have to wait for the starter's gun to go off in January.
Yep.
Whereas if we had a fallback session in the non-election year, that would give us time to maybe have stuff more focused and more looking at, because the budget's done, right?
Yeah.
So the budget's off the table.
Right.
Now we're looking at policy. We can start to look at education policy, criminal justice policy, health insurance policy, banking policy, right? And start to have good, meaningful, deeper discussions than we have to. Because, I mean, look at all the bills we pass.
Yeah.
We pass into hundreds of bills.
I know. It's crazy.
And in committee, we'll get backed up. And we got 70, 80, 90 bills that we've got to get through and adjudicate one way or the other. Are we going to move them forward or not?
And then you get down to the wire.
Right.
And then people are skipping lines and,
and it goes, and you miss stuff.
Let me get the Cliff Notes.
And it's funny. I mean, I've been on the House floor sometimes late in the session, and a bill gets to the House floor that one of those caveats pops up on the House floor, and it gets real quiet. Like, uh-oh, we got to fix this. And that's when you'll see something sent back to committee real quick.
Where do you think you get more done? Where are you more productive? Are you more productive in your district, or are you more productive in session?
I get all my ideas from the district, 100%. And in education, traveling to other districts. And because if you go back to your district all the time, you just get that tunnel vision.
Yeah.
In education, I've got to go to a suburban. I got to go to rural. I got to go to urban districts. I've got to function and see what law looks like an application in different settings, right? In criminal justice, right? A criminal justice law looks different in downtown Memphis as it does in Williamson County. It looks different, or out in Grundy County.
Yeah.
The application looks a little bit different, and so you've got to get out of your little box. I represent District 64, 72,000 people in Murray County. They are the closest to me as they can be. But I have to be able to function outside that district because I don't get to pass a law that just affects District 64.
Right.
It affects 7 million people. And so that is the hard part about legislation. And one thing I tell your listeners is, please come up and talk to us when you see us at the grocery store, or you see us in church, or you see us at the movie theater. Stop us and ask us questions.
Yeah.
Why?
This is one of the things I really like about you. You're always down for a conversation, and
well, you got to be able to defend your positions because that's the job.
Yep, 100%.
We've only got 172 more to go.
We've made it through really a good chunk of this. Give me a couple more laws that are now on the books in Tennessee that you're proud of, Scott.
Oh my. Well, one of the big things that we had a big problem with was, the lab-grown meat.
Yes.
Okay, that's coming up. And so we passed a bill. It is House Bill 804 by Rusty Grills. It sets clear rules on how lab-grown or cell-cultured food products can be marketed and sold in the state.
This is gonna the red-pilled moms club that listens.
Yes.
They're gonna be all ears on this one. The crunchy granola moms that we love.
Well, it's if it's grown in a lab, is it beef?
No,
it's not.
No.
Trust me, I'm a cattle farmer. I can show you beef, right? Yeah. So if it doesn't come from an animal, or it doesn't come from a chicken or a hog, right? You shouldn't be able to market it as that, because it's consumer information, right? It's making sure that you understand exactly what you're buying.
Totally off topic, but sort of on topic. But I just got squirreled to channel my inner Murphy. You're a cattle farmer.
Yes.
How do you feel about mRNA jabs for livestock?
So I passed a bill here a couple years ago that I took a lot of heat on that to me was totally, I never knew this was happening. One of my local constituents came to me, had moved from California and said, hey, did you know that the Biden administration is funding mRNA vaccines technology going into plant foods?
Yep.
I said, what?
Yep.
I said, what?
I remember this. Yep.
And I took all kinds of heat on. They made fun of me. And when you look at this, the application was in a head of lettuce or a tomato, right? They were having the technology that they could put a human vaccine into there, and they'd never tell you about it. And that was wrong. So I passed a bill. Now, I can't ban interstate commerce because that's protected under the Commerce Clause. But what I can do is set the parameters of what it means when it comes into the state of Tennessee. So on those mRNA vaccines that are going into our food products, that they will be deemed a pharmaceutical in the state of Tennessee.
Based.
Which means you have to go through all the testing in the state of Tennessee, and able to consume it, you have to have a prescription.
And is that going to apply to livestock as well?
If our food source has an mRNA, if you have a food source that you're selling that has an mRNA vaccine in it,
beef, chicken,
it has to be labeled as a pharmaceutical.
So that's across the board already?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Hey, I love that.
So that bill is being copied in 11 other states right now.
Scott Sepiki's in studio. Scott, how can we keep up with you off the air and, catch your ear? Where can we find you?
Well, you can go to my website or follow. The easiest thing is to follow me on Facebook because I do videos all the time. It's State Representative Scott Sepiki. That's all you have to do.
Just find him on Facebook at Scott Sepiki, and you can ask him any questions that we didn't get to today. Scott, I appreciate the time, man.
I appreciate it,
next time you come in, we'll get through the other 171 laws, all right?
I hear you, buddy.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. 11:54, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Jesus came to earth the first time to save the world. The next time he comes will be to condemn the world and those who have refused to accept him as their Lord and Savior. Christians are co-heirs with Christ and possess full rights as sons and inherit salvation, eternal life, the earth, the kingdom of God, and all things. If you're not a Christian and have wondered about eternal life, God may be drawing you. Accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, for only God can save you.
No matter what I've
No matter
ever done.
what I've ever done.
No matter what I've ever done.
No matter what you've ever done.
But what about?
No matter what you've ever done.
Even if?
You are no longer condemned, no matter what you have ever done. Non-cancelable, guaranteed reservation in heaven when you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Learn how now. Have you ever heard someone say, I used to be a Christian, but not anymore. After all I've been through, God wasn't there for me. Here's what the Apostle John said in the early church about false teachers in 1 John 2:19, about those who leave the Christian community. They went out from us, but they were not really of us. For if they had been of us, they would have remained with us. But they went out so that it would be shown that they all are not of us. Essentially, the Word of God is teaching what the true spiritual condition really is of those who walk away from their faith, that they never had true faith in the first place. Their true spiritual status is that of a false Christian. And when I say spiritual status, I mean Christ-like status. People who think they are Christians, thinking they are saved, but actually aren't, either believe in a false gospel or were false converts who never intended to follow God's prompting to accept Christ. There's no such thing as a used-to-be Christian.
Well, the big, beautiful bill has cleared the U.S. Senate, heads back to the House. Tennessee U.S. Senators going to tell you what it's going to do for Tennesseans. This and more coming up at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is 1:59. I said 11:50 the other a couple minutes ago.
It all blurs together, brother.
It all blurs together. And thank you all for the texts and the comments on YouTube.
What would we do without you?
I wouldn't have even known. I wouldn't have even known. Chad Benson's in studio. Chad, thank you for jumping in to cover the last hour of your show.
And the rest Murphy's of Matt's. Show. Matt Medicated Murphy.
You got a radio marathon in front of you.
I think Levin's sick, so he might have to cover him too.
The night guy?
We call him the night guy.
The night guy. Not a fan of ours right now here.
No. I don't think, out of all the people on Superdog, you probably would have the most hate towards you and I.
Oh, absolutely. He would hate our guts.
100%. He
would tell us how horrible we are. We're crappy Americans, and we're worse Israeli citizens.
What are you, a dope?
Yeah.
Are you taking money from Qatar?
Yeah. I wish. They're not offering it. If they were, I'm game. Look, I'll take it to whoever wants to offer it at this point in time.
What are you talking about today?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit big, beautiful bill. We're going to talk about the best new conspiracy theory that's out there. Ooh. This one's fantastic. And it's Bobby Bonilla Day. Okay,
go back to the conspiracy theory. Give me a teaser.
People washing up on shore shackled.
Oh.
That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. It's a big conspiracy that's taking over the interwebs. Be prepared, kids. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm going to do some Googling before you even get on air.
Absolutely, you should.
201, Chad's in next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top story.